One of the most useful techniques you'll find when working on a project is setting things up so that a linked relationship has been created between two or more objects in your scene. Formerly referred to as creating a hierarchy, linking objects together enable you to transform, in other words, move, scale, or rotate one object, and have whatever might be linked to that object directly affected by that transformation. The technique comes in especially handy when animating something in a scene, which we'll see in just a moment. Before that, though, to simply show you how the linking process is done, I'll be using a file named Linking Objects. You can find it in the Working Files folder for this chapter. When you set up a link, you in essence identify that certain objects in your scene take on certain responsibilities. One of those objects you'll label as the parent. Any other objects that'll be involved in the linking process will be labeled or classified as a child or as children if you choose more than one. Now, once those links have been established, here's how everything works. Moving the parent picks up and moves anything in the scene that's linked to that parent. Any child or children, in other words, that have been linked to the parent object. The same goes for rotating. You rotate the parent, the child or children rotate around the parent. If you scale the parent, the child scales accordingly, getting bigger or smaller in lockstep with its parent. The general rule of thumb is, whatever the parent does, the child follows. That's why they call it a linking, as their actions are linked together. Now, what adds dramatically to the flexibility and power of a linked hierarchy is that within that relationship, the child object can still do whatever it or they want on its own. So children are controlled by the parent, but are still driven, in addition to that, by their own actions. Here's what we'll do. We'll identify the green object in the middle as the parent. We'll then tell 3ds Max that we want the pink object just to its right to be its child. Once we've linked things up, we'll move them around. Linking is done using a special command up on the left-hand side of the toolbar. It's called Select and Link. The way it works is, once the command is active, you select the child. You then hold down your mouse and drag the child over to its parent. Let's do that. Notice the broken line that visually shows what we're connecting or linking together. When your cursor changes back to the linking icon, go ahead and let go. The parent object will temporarily light up. This is Max's way of telling you that a linking has indeed been made. Let's now go back to the select command by typing Q. Okay, now once we've done that, we'll open up the select by name list, this time typing H. To show the way that things have been linked together, we'll go to the Display pull-down menu and choose Display Children. Notice now how the way the pink star is indented below the name Green Object. With the way things are now lining up, we know that the pink star is linked to the green object. Let's now select the green object from the list and we'll head back to our scene. Okay, watch what happens when we now move, rotate, and scale our parent object. Whatever we do to the parent, the child goes along for the ride. Yet watch the difference if we instead perform the same transformations on the child. The child acts independently when transformed on its own. So again, whatever the parent does, the child follows. The child, though, is still free to do whatever it wants on its own. Now, there's tons of examples where you can gain from linking things together in a project. Link the doorknob, as a child, to the door. When you rotate the parent, the door, that knob follows along. Link the shoes, as children, to the character's feet. Or the purse, linked as a child, to the female's hand. A belt to a belt buckle, a mouse wheel to the mouse. The drawer to the desk. You pick up the desk and move it, the drawer goes in tow. The drawer, though, as a child, still being able to open and close on its own. When you think it through, there's literally thousands of things that you can link together, each benefiting from that linked relationship. The classic example of a linking would be the wheels on a car or truck, or maybe a cart. Let's take a look at how you might set that up. Here's a file named Link to Cart. You can find it in the Working Files folder. The scene consists of a cart with 4 wheels intended to make it roll. Here's what we're going to do. We'll set things up so the 4 wheels basically follow along with wherever the cart goes. At the same time, we're going to need the wheels to be able to rotate on their own. So who's the parent and who's the child here? The cart will serve as the parent. The wheels will act as children, going where the parent goes, but still being able to independently roll on their own. Now, we also have a hitch at the front of the cart. That too will be linked to the cart as a child. Once everything is set up correctly, we'll be able to move the cart and everything linked to it will go along for the ride. The wheels, though, as children, and just as you'd expect them to do, will be free to rotate on their own. Let's go ahead and set it all up. Heading to our Select by Name list by typing age, we'll select the 4 wheels and the hitch. You can just start with the name hitch, then pull down to the bottom of the list. Okay, we can now head back up to the upper left-hand corner of the toolbar, choosing Select and Link. Once we've done that, we can position our mouse on any of the wheels or the hitch, then pull those over to the body of the cart. This time, when you drag the children to the parent, you'll see a series of lines indicating the connections that we're going to make. When you're on top of the cart, let go, and you'll see the parent light up momentarily. Let's now go back to the Select command, typing Q, and we'll reopen our Select by Name list, hitting H. Notice now how all 4 wheels in the hitch are indented under the cart name. Remember, this is Max's way of telling you that things have been linked together. Let's now, in the list, double-click on Cart. If we now move the cart back and forth, we'll see that everything is connected. Okay, let's animate this. Heading down below the timeline will activate the Auto key. You can also simply type the letter N on your keyboard. Let's now take our time slider, pulling it over to frame 100. Using the Y-axis on our transform gizmo, that's the green stick, we'll now pull the cart to the lower left-hand side of the screen. Scrubbing the timeline will verify that so far everything is just as planned. Okay, back at frame 100, let's now select the 2 wheels that are closest to us. We can hold down the Control key as we make our selection. Activating the Rotate command, let's now rotate these forward about 450 degrees. Now the angle snap is already on, so that should be pretty easy. Let's do that same 450-degree rotation to the 2 wheels on the opposite side. We'll click on one, hold down the Control key, then select the other. Let's now click away to deselect, and we'll play things back. Now, there's something important that you always got to remember when it comes to where things are when you do your actual linking. With the mouse inside the viewport, we'll right-click, choosing Unhide All. Working back at frame 0, let's now link the plant to the cart. Now, before we do that, let me ask you a question. Could we link the plant to, let's say, the wheel? Well, let's try that first and see how it turns out. Up to the Select and Link command, we'll then drag the plant over to one of the wheels. Let's now go ahead and scrub our timeline and see how things look. Well, as you can see, things just can't be done that way. The plant has to be linked to the cart. Let's go ahead and hit Ctrl-Z a couple times to undo that linking. You might want to scrub the timeline before going any further just to verify that things are indeed not linked. Okay, back at frame 0, using Select and Link, let's link the plant to the cart. Now remember, the issue was where things are when things are linked together. Let's go ahead and play this back. Now, the plant is definitely linked to the cart, but not in the correct position. So you want to make sure that before linking things together, everything is in the right spot. Now, as a child, even though we've already linked things together, we can still move the plant on top of the cart. Let's first turn off our auto key so nothing's keyframed. We can now grab the plant and move it over into position. With everything still linked together, we'll scrub our timeline again. Now, you can also easily break a link, but again, you got to be aware of where you are when doing it. Let's go to around frame 80 in our timeline and reselect the plant if needed. This time, wanting to unlink the plant, we'll head back to the upper left-hand corner of the toolbar and directly to the right of Select and Link, you'll find Unlink Selection. Go ahead and click that. That unlinks the plant, breaking away its association or relationship with the cart. Scrub the timeline to check out the results. So the plant is left exactly where you unlinked it. It doesn't move back to any kind of original position. It just stays exactly where it was when it was unlinked. So you got to be careful of that. Let's hit Ctrl-Z so we can redo the linking. Now, being a little more conscientious of where we are when we do unlink, we'll be at frame 0 for this. Let's go ahead and again unlink the plant. Scrubbing the timeline, we can see where the plant this time resides, and we can now move it over to the side. So that'll give you a few things on linking and unlinking. It's pretty straightforward. Just identify the parent and whatever child or children might be involved. Link them together, and you can get down to business. I'll go ahead and save this out as Link to Cart Completed if you'd like to take a look.